Imagine this. A fleet creeps toward northern Europe, under low cloud and radiating stealth. The first wave of an attacker who thinks Denmark is just a flat peninsula, some pretty islands, and a lot of bikes. Then the weather clears. Radar nets wake up from the Arctic to the Baltic, and the harmless little kingdom slams shut like a steel gate on a stormy sea. Denmark is the latch on Europe's Baltic door, a Jutland peninsula you can drive onto from Germany. And then an archipelago, Funen, Zealand, and dozens of smaller islands, strong like stepping stones between the North Sea and the Baltic. If the Kremlin ever dreams of reaching the Atlantic, it has to get past Denmark first. And that's where the fantasy dies.
Every ship heading into or out of the Baltic Sea has to pass through the Danish Straits, the Øresund, the Great Belt, and the Little Belt. These aren't vast oceans. They're funnels, with narrow points measuring just a few kilometers across. Geography doesn't care how many admirals you have. It forces large fleets into long, single-file lines, and those lines make for very lucrative targets. On a map, it might look easy to pass through. But in reality, every island, every bridge, every fairway is a decision point where a defender can say yes or no using mines, missiles, and precision artillery. Think about those spectacular bridges, the Øresund link between Denmark and Sweden, and the Great Belt fixed link within Denmark. They're marvels of engineering, and they're also obvious choke points. In peacetime, they move commuters and container ships. But in wartime, they become predictable gateways that you simply have to pass through. And predictable is just another word for vulnerable. So you think the plan is to just rush the bridges? Good luck explaining to your commander that your strategy depends on the enemy not noticing you at their own front door. Imagine a task force trying to force the Øresund at night. It enters the Narrows, ships stacked hull to hull in a tight channel, surrounded by coastlines bristling with sensors. Every kilometer is another kill zone. Smart minds lie waiting on the seabed. Naval strike missiles skim across the water from launchers hidden in bays and along breakwaters. Overhead, invisible F-35s are painting targets on the convoy for NATO ships you can't even see. The task force has to keep moving because it can't stop. There's simply no room to maneuver, and every minute it's taking losses it cannot replace. This is how a navy turns these choke points into kill zones. Denmark's surface fleet is small, but it's mean, specifically built for the unique physics of these narrow seas. The Iver Huitfeldt class frigates are the anchors of air defense. Equipped with modern phased array radars and layered missile batteries, they also carry helicopters that can hunt submarines, drop torpedoes, and guide anti-ship strikes. Around these frigates, smaller patrol vessels, mine hunters, and support ships do the quiet, essential work that decides conflicts and straits. Laying and clearing mines, guarding the fairways, and managing commercial traffic, shutting it all down when the order comes. The hardware is important, but the doctrine matters even more. For decades, Denmark and its NATO partners have rehearsed this exact play. Choke the approach, mine the channels, stack the missiles, and turn out the lights. Here's the twist. People hear small navy and think small threat, but in a bathtub-like environment like the Baltic, small doesn't mean weak. It means optimized. You don't need a massive carrier strike group to completely ruin an amphibious flotilla's day. Sometimes being smaller and smarter is the most powerful advantage you can have. If you want to control the Baltic Sea in a conflict, you have to go through specific lanes. And if you know those lanes, you can flood them with threats. In a NATO-Russia fight, the Baltic becomes a lake with a padlock, and Denmark is that padlock. First, surprise is basically impossible. Denmark is now in the F-35 era, and that jet's superpower isn't just its stealth or weapons, it's information. It fuses radar, infrared, electronic, and data link feeds into one crystal-clear picture, and then shares that picture with everyone who needs it. Add in long-range sensors staring into the North Atlantic from Greenland and the Faroe Islands, plus coastal radars knitting the straits into a single air and maritime view. Tie it all into NATO's regional air policing, and you've replaced the word surprise with notification. You do and have to guess where the raid is coming from if you can see it forming before the pilots have even finished zipping up their flight suits. For any military planner, This means any move toward the North Sea runs straight through a Danish-led, NATO-backed kill web. The moment a cruiser lights up its radar, or a transport regiment lifts off, screens glow across half a continent. No one fights alone in this neighborhood. If your plan depends on Denmark being deaf or blind, you need a new plan. Second, if you somehow manage to get ashore, the Danish army and its air defenses are waiting. Denmark's ground forces are compact but modern. We're talking Leopard 2 tanks in their latest configurations, fast 8x8 infantry carriers, self-propelled artillery with precision fuses, and engineers who know exactly which causeways to blow to block in advance. Overhead, a layered air defense system protects critical infrastructure, catching the low-flying drones and cruise missiles that have become the opening act of every modern attack. It's not glamorous, but it's the essential work of denying objectives and buying precious time. Picture an amphibious landing. Attacker has to thread landing craft through a narrow channel, just a few hundred meters wide, all while under constant observation. The first wave hits the beach and is immediately met by a wall of top-attack artillery, roaming drones and missiles firing from the shore. In the distance, Leopard to south are pushing hard for the sand, with thermal sights cutting through smoke and spray, while mechanized infantry deploys along the roads. Let's run a specific scenario, capturing the island of Bornholm, which sits between Sweden and Poland. Your helicopters lift off, your landing ships commit. Within minutes, you are under surveillance and fire from 3 directions. Danish batteries reach you from the west, Swedish aircraft from the north, and Polish coastal units from the south. And they're all looking at the same shared operational picture. You didn't just kick a hornet's nest. You kicked 3 that had already decided who they were targeting first. This brings us to the bigger picture, the alliance. This is where any dream of a quick victory goes to die. Denmark isn't a solitary fortress. It's bordered by Germany, Norway, Poland, and now Sweden and Finland. They all wear the same NATO patch. An attack on Denmark drags in a network stretching from the Arctic to the Black Sea and across the Atlantic. Through Nordic defense cooperation and the UK-led Joint Expeditionary Force, the procedures are already written. They have common radio frequencies, fuel hoses that fit, and amphibious ramps that match. Headquarters can plug and play a Danish battalion into a British brigade seamlessly. The opening hours of a fight wouldn't look like one country's emergency, would be an entire region shifting its posture. But now there's a catch. Denmark is small. Its army is compact, its population is modest, and it doesn't have limitless stockpiles of munitions. But in this specific battle space, small doesn't mean weak. It means being laser-focused on one job, slamming the Baltic door shut. A giant army would just get in its own way in the narrow straits. Denmark is built for the room it's in. You might think an attacker could just roll up the Jutland Peninsula from Germany and declare victory. But in reality, you'd be driving straight into a NATO umbrella, watched by Allied surveillance, with key bridges and causeways already targeted for demolition. You could capture a piece of the map only to find it's worthless because the sea, lanes you desperately need, are on the other side, still firmly locked down. In any clash, the Baltic effectively becomes a NATO lake, and Denmark holds the key. That isn't fantasy, it's just logistics. The more you analyze the map, the more Denmark's critical role becomes clear. How do you control a vital strait in the 21st century without blowing it to bits? For Denmark, the answer is a masterclass in modern defense. It starts not with steel, but with software. Pre-planned mining patterns and smart bottom mines lie dormant, waiting for the right acoustic signature to pass overhead before they wake up. Imagine mobile coastal missile batteries that pop up from what looks like a simple fishing hut, fire a salvo, and then disappear again. Picture frigates with over-the-horizon radars, their low-elevation beams painting a picture for missiles that never need to ask twice. One day, helicopters are sweeping for the very mines you laid yesterday, clearing a path for your own ships to sail tomorrow. This is the tempo Denmark trains for. In this strategic chess game, deception is a weapon system. Civilian ferries can become troop carriers in a blink, and just as quickly turn into decoys, drawing the enemy's attention and wasting their sensors. In the command post, the first question isn't, where is the enemy? It's, which channel do we want them in? The second isn't, what can we hit them with? It's, what do we save for the next wave? This mindset turns the entire geography of the Straits into a continuous series of lethal traps. And what about radar? From the North Atlantic long-range sensors watch the airspace and sea lanes. Closer in, coastal and island-based radars create a seamless net over the waterways. Above it all, stealth jets act as flying data routers, distributing the tactical picture to ships and batteries that stay radio silent, never revealing their position until the moment they fire. In this environment, surprise is simply an accounting error. The classic wild card is the submarine. In the shallow, cluttered waters of the Baltic, they can be terrifying. But these same conditions are where helicopters with dipping sonars, sonobuoys, and lightweight torpedoes excel. A strait is noisy, yes, but it's also predictable. You can sneak a sub into a vast ocean, but you can't sneak it through a toll booth that checks hull signatures. Then there's the home guard, embedded in every port, energy site, and telecom hub. In peacetime, they assist with emergencies. In a conflict, they become a network of distributed sensors and a rapid response force, making sabotage and special operations incredibly difficult. It's not glamorous, but it's brutally effective. Ultimately, Denmark's greatest weapon might just be its bandwidth. The kingdom sits on a nexus of undersea cables, shipping lanes, and wind farms that power Europe. Defending this network is a national habit. Cyber defenses are woven into mobilization plans. When drills happen, they don't just scramble jets. They harden networks and test security patches. To break Denmark, you'd have to try and break a large part of Europe's daily life at the same time. 60 hours into a hypothetical crisis. The initial missile attacks are over. The Baltic Sea is now a graveyard of burnt foam and broken propellers. Danish frigates haven't been chasing glory. They've been staying alive, conserving their missiles, and guarding the sea lanes. That's what matters. High above F-35s are circling under strict emissions control. They're using their advanced sensors to see everything without giving away their own position. Onshore, mobile missile batteries are in a constant game of hide and seek, their movements dictated by the wind, the tides, and the quirky local roads that only Danes truly know. The enemy can't predict their rhythm. Then, Allied signatures start popping up. Norwegian jets appear on the radar. Polish coastal radars link into the network. German logistics columns are rolling north. It's just as the defenders planned. The fight is getting bigger. But for the attacker, a new problem is emerging. Time. Every single day the straits hold, more allies arrive. Our supplies are moved into position, and more sea mines are placed exactly where they need to be. The cost of the attack starts to skyrocket. What was meant to be a quick, decisive push has turned into a brutal war of attrition in a place specifically designed to punish it. The Baltic Narrows don't reward heroic charges. They reward patience, preparation, and the ability to hold the line until your friends show up and say, "We're here." Now, let's be honest. Denmark's strategy isn't foolproof. It's not invincible. Precision strikes can still cause damage. Ammunition can run low. Bad weather can ground planes and make laying mines a nightmare. But that's precisely why Denmark's strategy is built on alliances and layered defense. If one layer gets worn down, another takes its place. If one partner needs to reload, another steps up to watch the lane. It's resilience by design. Let's not forget the most stubborn ally in the Baltic: the weather. Fog, ice, and strong currents don't care what flag is on your ship. In the Straits, bad weather narrows the lanes, slows down convoys, and gives the defenders an even bigger advantage. You can fool a sensor, but you can't argue with geography and climate. If your invasion plan relies on clear skies and calm seas, you'd better be prepared for disappointment. So you might be thinking, couldn't a massive attacker just overwhelm the defenders with sheer numbers? Just throw enough ships and missiles at the problem to burn a path through? Maybe, but in these confined waters, numbers can work against you. The more ships you cram in, the more you risk collisions, interfere with your own sensors, and create the perfect traffic jams for missiles to feast on. Mass becomes a target, not an advantage. That's just geometry. Let's focus on Russia, because that's the scenario everyone games out. If Moscow ever decided to push out of the Baltic and threaten the North Atlantic, Denmark is the hinge it would have to break. But to do that, Russia would have to send its forces into sea lanes it doesn't control. under the watch of radars it can't blind, and into a battle space where NATO has the home field advantage in every single domain. The more Russia tries to simplify the problem, the more Denmark and its partners complicate it. Every shortcut leads to a toll booth, and every toll booth is in the middle of a crossfire. You have to find the humor in it, right? Imagine an invading general trying to parallel park an aircraft carrier in Copenhagen's Nyhavn harbor while ordering a pastry. Or announcing, "We'll just go around the straits," only to realize around means going through Norway and the entire NATO alliance. The jokes work because the whole situation is absurd. The map makes bad ideas look tempting and then punishes them with Danish efficiency. So why is Denmark so hard to invade? Because the sea is a trap. The bridges are bottlenecks. The Danish fleet turns the straits into kill zones. The web of radar and sensors erases any chance of surprise. The army and home guard deny any ground objectives, and the alliances guarantee that any local fight instantly becomes a regional catastrophe for the attacker. You don't invade Denmark. You survive it, if you're lucky. And even if an attacker somehow managed to force their way through Denmark's gate, they'd run straight into a neighborhood that's getting tougher by the day. Poland is rearming at a speed Europe hasn't seen in decades. Germany has unlocked massive new defense funds. The Baltic's padlock is just the beginning of the problem. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to stick around. Next time we're diving into how Poland's new military power is changing the entire map, and how Germany's rearmament is shifting the balance of power from the North Sea all the way to the Alps. Until then, thanks for watching. Maybe admire the bridges, enjoy the pastries, and just leave the gate alone.